Hello, and welcome to SCOUTCAST, brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout. As always, you're joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode, and in a week of double game weeks, which has only just finished with Liverpool Villa, we've had swings, we've had assistant managers galore, we've had goals, late goals, people coming back into the fold. And joining me tonight are two people that don't deserve to be assistant managers. They deserve to be full-time managers. Hibbo, how's it going this week, my man?
It's going all right, Andy. It's another double game week pod where, coming onto the pod, we didn't really know the results. So that's a wee bit unnerving. And I suppose I kind of spent the last few days wondering, is Emery going to be Moyes 2.0? The table bonus guy is going to win again. And they kind of did. I think it was 14-13, the slot, or the Emery over slot, and the same guys more than likely won on Moyes. So I think congrats to them. The boys that went for table bonus seem to be in front so far.
Yeah, table bonus is obviously going to be a real talking point tonight as well. But Nacho, we're also joined by me, my man. By you, my man. How's it going?
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm good. Obviously, cast ourselves back to last week where we were tuning in and we had that last minute thunderbolt by Tarkowski. So I'm glad the game's finished now. So us three being on slot, we don't have to have any sort of last minute pain. But yeah, actually on reflection, just thinking about it, Emery, if he got that win against Ipswich, could have been a lot worse. So I'm actually okay with the week because I fancied Villa to be up for that Liverpool game, but the Ipswich one was one that I just thought was going to happen. And kind of glad on reflection that didn't come in clutch. So loads to talk about this week, so it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and how do you both feel, by the way, about me saying that neither of you are ass man? Is that, right, would you say? Does that reflect both of how you feel?
Take what I can get.
I'd say accurate for me. Definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
What about yourself, mate?
I've always been an ass man. Right. Let's have a look at what we're going to be talking about tonight. And thank you so much for the people that we've got in the chat already, by the way. For anybody that is watching this live, our ranks and our points are not right on the screen. We will talk about those in a minute when we actually look at our points, but they are not right at the moment. Mine, it says 904k, but I'm definitely in the top 100k. So that's how you can tell that they're not quite right at the moment. But thank you, like I said, for all the people that are in the chat. FPL Rank Chaser, who's obviously part of our community team. We got Dennis Robertson, Michael, Chris Woodstock, Attaboy, Zeitgul. These are all the nice names. I think when I finished the stream last time, it was all the names I couldn't pronounce. So I'm glad it's all the nice names in the stream to begin with. So we're going to be having a look at our points this week, which is going to be interesting. We've got quite a few. No, I think we've only got one person on this stream now who's in the 100 club. Then we're going to have a look at our XA and our XGI tables. We're also, and this is where it gets quite juicy, we're going to be looking at the projected points for assistant managers this week, because there's a lot of people wanting to make moves with their managers, and there's going to be some people wanting to activate their managers as well. We're going to be looking at a free hit 29 draft. Now, you might be thinking, my God, we're only getting ready for game week 26. But if you are not free hitting in 29, or you are, you need to know what players people are moving to. So we thought that would be quite interesting to have a look at. Then we're going to be looking at a little bit of shiny new toys. There's awful lot of players that are starting to come into form that haven't been options at all this season. So it'd be really interesting to look and see whether we can jump on them early or whether they're just flash in the pans and we just need to ignore them. We're going to be looking a little bit at fixtures, our bus teams, the community team. Although, to be honest, every week I don't want to look at the community team at the moment because they just seem to be having one of those seasons now. They're doing very, very well, so fair play to them. And then we're going to have a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. The chat is starting to pick up quite a bit. Some amazing scores I'm seeing at the moment. 121s, 110s, lovely stuff. So, on to our points. Now, these are my points based on before the second game happened. But I am actually on 98 points now, up into the top 800k. Yes, that's right, 800k. I had Pickford with 3, Gabriel with 6, Trent with 13 after his goal tonight, Howson with 2. I could not believe they conceded to Southampton. Completely in control of that game they were. Clivert with 5. I did Gordon to Clivert this week. And Boomer with 3, who, since I've got him back, has decided not to be able to find the back of the net. Salah with 40 as captain. Palmer with 2. Rodgers with 4. 2 games, 2 points in each game. Isak with 2. And then Raul Jimenez with 5, who, by the way, could have had a little bit of a haul there. He had quite a few chances in that game. Lewis was the only other point scorer in my team, and he was third on my bench. Slot getting me 13 points. So Slot has got me 28 points in 2 weeks. I'll take 98 points. I'll take an over 100k green arrow. So I'm more than happy with that. I feel like my move was all right getting Kluivert in. I and ahed about which Bournemouth lad to get, and I went for the one with penalties. He got the assist. Obviously, Dango got the goal. But I'll take it. I really fancy them against Southampton to get me a few more, and Howson to maybe get me something. But there it is. But yeah, I'll take 98 points and a nice little green arrow. Hibbo, on to you, my man, because yours was a more substantial green arrow.
Yeah, and I think we're operating off older images, so it's changed about the points have been a move on target. When I submitted my team, I was on maybe 64 points. Now, going on to this week, I did Isaac de Watkins, and it wasn't an easy move to make. You know, Isaac's been very good. I kind of felt like the next 3 fixtures were kind of hard for him, and then he was blanking on 29. So there was lots of logic in it. He could hurt me against Forest, but I went for it anyway. So back to front for the podcast, folks. I had Pickford and goal, 3 points. Arne Slot got me a 13. I had Gabriel and Timber with like double clean sheet for Arsenal. Trent Alexander-Arnold with 13. Salah with 40 as a captain. Palmer with 2. Bruno with 2. Rogers with 4. Semenyo with 4. Pedro with 1. And Watkins with 15 up front. So like Watkins really produced the business. I made a bit of a boo-boo. And I put Beto for sub. I didn't really think about it enough, to be honest. It was a mistake. I didn't really fancy Pedro to start, if I'm being completely honest, but then I just kind of convinced myself that Everton away to Palace wasn't a great fixture for Beto, and maybe Pedro could start. But he punished me a bit, and I should have played him because he took his goal very well. But I think all in all, 109 all out and 100k green arrow up to 188k. So going in the right direction, I think.
I tell you what, I'd hate to be your mate in real life. Like Beto. Wait. Absolutely, like smashes.
Just
it
leave
for
it that.
You.
Just leave it that.
Smashes it for you last week, and you just looked at him and thought, "Do you know what? I'm going to go back to my dirty little ex in Juan Pedro." What does he do?
No.
Lets you down. No. I'm talking, Hibbo. He lets you down again. Beto, first on your bench, looking at you, going, "Come on, what? Come on, what more do I have to do for you?" And you just dump him on your bench. And you're like, I had so much respect for you when we started this season, and it's slowly waning off now.
I do think I was kind of blinded by my love for Pedro a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like I filled my head with so much Pedro propaganda, and I think the play was the play Beto. You know, the game was open, Palace Everton, both teams could have scored a lot of goals. And as I say, he's looking like quite a good option. And I think we'll talk about him in depth a wee bit later on. But as I say, 100k green arrow, just I want to say that again. Up to 188k. And all good now as we approach this last end of the season. We're going to have, what do we do with blank game week 29? What do we do with this stretch? And hopefully this is the money part of the season, I think.
Yes. And speaking of that, Nacho, you must be in debt, my son. Talk us through your points.
I'll tell you what, I've fallen off a cliff, haven't I? I've fallen off a cliff recently.
Do you remember when you were talking about 7 green arrows in a row? That was your time.
Well, firstly, let's put a bit of context on here. 92 points it looks like for the game week, which is not ideal at all. I mean, some of the players I'm left with right now questioning what is going on here. So I'll quickly read through this and then I'll give you a bit of a recap on exactly what happened and how I'm going to get out of this problem. So Pickford with 3 points. We got Trent now with a 13, Gabriel 6, Munoz. Went for the double Bournemouth, so I sold Anthony Gordon, brought in Kluivert because my plan right now is not to free hit in game week 29. So the Bournemouth midfielders just tick all the boxes between now and then. Palmer 2 pointers, Salah with the captaincy, obviously 40 total right now. Eze with the 1, that's a problem. And then Vicent Isak up top. So not ideal. It basically is a green arrow. It's saying right now around like 212k, 213. So it's not bad. It's not bad. Now, I feel like I'm a manager that operates better under pressure. So when I made these accusations and claims that I would get 7 green arrows, I stepped into the play. I've been in cruise control for too long now. I need to up the pressure. So we'll make another claim at the end of this pod, how many greens I'll get, and we'll put some sort of forfeit on it because I need the pressure on now. So I'm going to do it at the end.
I like it. I would love to hear you in an interview. Nacho. Like, you just put such a good spin on things, no matter what happens in a week. You'd be a really good spin doctor, wouldn't you? I do like it.
Anthony, we call.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's have a look at some XA tables then. So these are the XA tables from the last 6 game weeks. We've got Brian Mbumo at the top, who's 2.64 XA from the last 6. Anthony Alanga, De Bruyne, Eze, interestingly, still up there, even though he's been injured for quite a while. Well, I can't say quite a while, a few games. Damsgaard's up there, who I saw linked away this week, potentially at the end of the year. Salah, Munoz, Nicholas Jackson, Haaland. We got Rice, Palmer, Guimaraes, Murphy, Savio, and Bruno Fernandes, who rounds it off. The only ones above 2 XA over the last 6 game weeks are Mbumo and Alanga. Now, Nacho, I've just mentioned Mbumo there. He's top of this. 1 assist. I think he's had a penalty goal in the last 4, and that's it. He does seem to be dropping a little bit. Obviously, the big thing with him this week is people are thinking about captaining him. Is he going off a little bit at the moment? Is this one of those moments where we've had this already this season where, he's playing a bit wide, it's not quite working, and then he goes on one of his, stretches of scoring? Does it look a little bit like that? Is he captainable this week, or is it a little bit of a worry with him?
Captaincy is really interesting this week, and I'm looking forward to talking about it later, obviously in a bit more detail. But I think with Brian Mbuemo, I think we have to just not look at the recent times. Like, this is a player that has historically just been fantastic throughout 3 or 4 seasons now. So I don't think people should be panicking about Brian Mbuemo. I'm one of those managers that's actually possibly looking to bring him in this week. When I look at the fixtures that they've had, I would argue they've had good ones along the way. City has been tricky, Liverpool, Palace away is always a tough place, Spurs and West Ham. So I think the big thing we need to remember is the fixtures coming up. Leicester away is a fantastic fixture for Brian Mbuemo. And again, top here for expected assists in the last 6 game weeks. So his numbers have been okay. I know people are panicking right now about whether he's actually going to return, and captaincy for me might be a bit of a stretch, but I still think he's a fantastic option. And I just don't think a player who has got guaranteed minutes, a fixture in the blank game week 29 on penalties, should be out of our consideration right now. But would I go there for captaincy? Probably not, as we're speaking right now.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And I know, Hibbo, you obviously write the captaincy one for Scout as well, don't you? Is Mbumo up there for you, or do you think it's just going to be Salah still?
I haven't wrote it yet, but what I would say is...
Chop.
Yeah, come on. He's been too busy benching Beto, that's what it is.
It feels to me, captaincy feels to me pretty tight. And I think, intuitively in the weeks where it feels tight, I nearly think he could just defer to Salah. Now, I do think Man City away as historically a hard fixture for Salah. He's playing red hot. Man City aren't really defending very well at the minute. Would you back against Salah getting a goal? And I think that's really the best case argument for any player that you're going to pick as a captain. Do you think he could score? I do. So by virtue of that, like, there's a chance he gets 10 points. I do think there's other options. I think Isak's an option this week at home to Forest. I've recently sold him, so I'm running the gauntlet a wee bit there. But Mbumo, would I trust Mbumo head-to-head against Salah? No.
Yeah.
Like, if you deep down the numbers, they look okay here, but he's a wee bit penalty reliant, as you say. The output's a wee bit low. His expected numbers might be kind of fairly high, but he's not really converting at the minute, and he's not really on that, as a 13 million, as a 14 million player bracket. And I just think it's hard to go against that sometimes. And I would nearly think if you're going to pick a spot to go against Salah, it could be next week, the following week.
Yeah.
I think Palmer's got Southampton, maybe. That would be the week for me where I think he could because he's a really heavyweight option. I think if Mbumo was at home to Leicester, I think I would feel a lot differently. Brentford and a road are a wee bit ropey. I think we can all agree on that.
No, he blanked in that game. I captained him in that game, and I remember him blanking in that
Leicester
game.
at home?
Yep. And he didn't get the assist either, did he? That was one of the controversial ones.
Right.
Yes. But you've just mentioned him a little bit there, and a team that does seem to be just on the beach in February, Nacho, is your team, Chelsea. Cole Palmer, 0 assists in the last 6 game weeks, but he has had 1.36. If I bring up the XGI table, you'd assume that he was on the XGI table. He is 2.8 XGI over the last 6 game weeks. I know obviously he's got some nice fixtures coming up, and obviously we talk about this all the time, is that, nice fixtures turn up and these players obviously start playing well again. But is there a little bit of a worry for you with someone like Cole Palmer? Because obviously he's been an incredible asset for the last year and a half. But these last couple of weeks, I mean, Chelsea were awful against Brighton. Like, genuinely, I think Maresca even came out and said it is the worst performance he's seen since he's been at the club. What do you think? Is it just that we're now less likely to captain him? Or is it just, how it just happens, keep him, he's got nice fixtures coming up?
Yeah, well, everything that people have heard about Chelsea is true. We are awful right now, honestly. The game against Brighton, for example, before Brighton scored, we had all of the possession dominating it. And I remember looking and thinking, I don't think we've entered their penalty box yet. Like, everything was just on the halfway line, nothing actually being created in this team. And now we've got Madueke being out with a hamstring injury. Sancho's just glitching right now. I don't know what he's doing when he has the ball. We have so many players that are just, how I define...
Is he glitching?
Just stuttering, like he just does nothing. Yeah. Honestly, the way I define our players is all fart, no poo. These guys look great. They don't do anything actually output-wise. Now, that is bad for Chelsea as a whole. But one thing that is worth noting is with Nicholas Jackson out, with all our wingers doing nothing, if we are going to get a result, it literally has to be Cole Palmer. Similar to the arguments that people have about Bruno Fernandes at Man United. Man United could be the worst team on the planet. Right now, they are clearly. But people always think to themselves, if they are going to get a result and it turns around, it has to be through Bruno Fernandes. And the same is going to apply to Chelsea right now. There's no world Chelsea get a good result against Aston Villa away. We could put it out there. But Southampton at home and Leicester at home, like, these guys are awful. And I just think if you own Cole Palmer right now, don't stress. These are fantastic fixtures for a guy who has been a flat track bully in these games in the past. I wouldn't panic over Cole Palmer. But I do think he could be a bit of a cash cow for you in game week 29 onwards, because that is a time where I think you could part ways with him and actually be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned there, by the way, about Villa. Do you fancy Villa to get a few past Chelsea then, do you?
Oh, if you've got Watkins, you are good. Honestly, game week 20. I actually didn't think about that enough, really. I looked at Watkins for the double. I actually didn't think about game week 26 as well. If he didn't score against Chelsea, he would at least have two big chances, that's for sure.
Oh, you're going to love who I'm thinking about selling this week. If I go through the rest of the XGI table over the last 6 game weeks, then there are only 4 that are 4 or above. That's Johan Wissa, who's at the top with 4.95. Mateta on 4.69 with 6 goal scoring contributions. Yeah, he's just absolutely smashed it recently. And Bumo, 4.34, and then Haaland. Then we got Nicholas Jackson, who's obviously injured. Elanga, Isak, Salah, Foden, Madueke, also injured. Ollie Watkins, Chris Wood. Oh, I won't be talking about Chris Wood tonight. Eze, Palmer, and then Semenyo as well. I mean, Hibbo, we've just mentioned there about Villa. You've obviously got Watkins in. There's loads of people with Rodgers. I'm looking at taking Rodgers out this week. Is that an error?
Right, okay.
Because we've obviously just been talking about Chelsea. Chelsea are awful at the moment. They do concede chances. And obviously, I think it was Mark on one of the black boxes saying that Rodgers loves playing against weaker midfields and kind of soft centre-backs. Do you kind of see that being Chelsea?
Not really. And I think if I look at their next 3, you're looking Chelsea at home, which Nacho seems to like from an attacking perspective, but then they've got 2 away, Palace and Brentford. Brentford obviously aren't great. Palace you could score against, then they blank. So I think there's maybe a wee bit of value. I know I bought Watkins last week using the same logic about these fixtures. But I think there's an argument to maybe reduce your complement depending on who you're going to bring in. And like I'm looking this week, maybe Kluivert. You know what? I've got Semenyo. I think the double up in midfield's good. I know Nacho's got the double Bournemouth in midfield at the minute. And it's a direction that I'd like to go, like Wolves at home as opposed to Chelsea at home, Kluivert on the pens. I think moves like that make a lot of sense. And I wouldn't really get hung up on whether we think it's offensively a good fixture for Rodgers. I do think there's other options out there that over this next, say, 3 or 4, going through 29, that'll be well worth their weight in gold, I think.
Yeah, they are. And speaking of people being well worth their weight in gold, I mean, Nacho, why doesn't every single manager out there own Jean-Philippe Mateta? He is, I think he's got returns in his last 5 games. We mentioned him
we loved him
months ago, didn't we? Saying he is the player you want to get if you want to, start making ground. Even now, you could invest in him now and you'd be making so much ground on so many other managers. He is in supreme form and nobody's got him because he blanks in 29. And even FPL, the official FPL came out. No, was it official FPL? It might have been Scout saying, Oh, but you won't own Mateta because he doesn't play in 29. Is that just an oversight from us? I mean, Hibbo invested in Watkins. Why aren't we buying Mateta?
Oh, 100% it's been an oversight. Now, it is worth noting that Palace have been a bit indifferent this season. So we haven't had like the Palace that we saw at the back end of last year under Glasner. Like, I think the doubts about Mateta weren't necessarily him as a player. It was more as Crystal Palace as a team, because prior to basically when Palace have been on a good run, they had some indifferent results. The only real wins coming against teams that you would expect them to win against. I think Mateta as well, obviously having such a busy summer with France, that he didn't necessarily have a great pre-season. Now we are seeing the best of him right now. And the big thing as well with this Crystal Palace team, with Elise gone and also Eze just not operating, it literally is Mateta's team. So if they're going to get results, he is at the heart of everything. And I mean, these returns, 8-8, 13-2, 13-7. Points still to come. Villa, Fulham, Ipswich until that blank. I could see him getting another 2 goals between now and then. But it's the classic thing. Would I invest in him now? The answer is no. Unfortunately, the answer is no. But again, we need to take these sort of learnings going forward, that when the fixtures are there to attack, and around game week 21, they were there to be attacked. Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Man United, Everton. We were looking far too far in the future with this blank game week 29. So yeah, an oversight, but one that I'm not looking to rectify now.
If you were on free hit 29, would he be your top transfer in though?
Who, Mateta?
Yeah.
Well, in on game week 29.
No, if you were on free hit 29, would he be your top transfer in now?
Yeah, I think he would be, to be honest, because you have to look at the end. Game week 30 away against Southampton, game week 31 at home against Brighton. I think he would be right up there alongside those other forwards. But there is a forward discussion to be had, because Cunha, Chris Wood and all are fantastic as well.
Yeah, do you know what? It was actually the next player I was going to ask Hibbo about was Cunha, because I'm not going to lie, he looks so good again. He looks so good against Liverpool. And it says a lot when even Liverpool fans were coming out and saying, my God, he looked good against us. And he seems to do everything. And whenever he gets a goal, we've said this all year, his bonus is ridiculous. Because he does so much on the pitch. And do you think this week is 1 week too early, Hibbo, to invest in Cunha? Do you think you'd be waiting 1 more week, or do you think he's that good he can do it this week as well?
I think he can do it this week. It just depends who you have up front. Like in my position, we could talk about it later on. Cunha's potentially an option for me. And I do think if we look beyond kind of the next fixture against Bournemouth, like he's got Fulham, Everton, both at home. He's got Southampton, obviously, in game week 29. When we look at the 6 game week block, I think Wolves are top of a ticker. But what I will say is, like, he's the only Wolves player I would buy. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. We both play so rare. He does so much in the game that he scores quite highly in that game. And then when you convert that to the FPL, it makes sense, you know, because he completes a lot of passes and he's quite favourable for bonus because of how many dribbles he takes in the match and how many shots he gets off. So, like, he's a kind of player, I totally agree. He scores a goal, he more than likely gets 9 points. And there's always that set piece potential, assist potential with him as well. He takes free kicks. There's lots to like. Has he confirmed in penalties? Has he had a penalty?
I would have thought so. I'd be surprised if he wasn't.
I think penalties might be a wee bit up in the air, because he's a kind of player that the analytics community haven't really jumped on. And normally that means the player's not really 100% confirmed penalty taker. So there could be something on that, because I think if he was at his price point, he's just ridiculous value, and I think we all know that anyway. Like, you know,
if I remember rightly, I think Sarabia was top penalty taker, and obviously, but he doesn't really play much at the moment. But when he's on the pitch, he was the one that was taking them. But without him there, you've got to assume that it's going to be Cunha.
I would assume that it is, and I think the debate analytics probably want to settle us who takes someone. Sarabia's on the pitch, although it's probably a bit of a mute argument because he doesn't play many minutes anyway these days. But no, I do like Cunha as a pick. There's an argument that you could go for him this week, 100%.
Now, obviously that was all talking about players, but this season we are going to be talking about managers as well. And obviously we are now into the 3rd week of when you could have potentially played your assistant manager chip. Loads of people had it on Emery, loads of people had it on Moyes. I've seen Iraola's out there. That sounded weird. But lots of people obviously played it on slot as well. Those people that kept it on Moyes for 2 weeks have absolutely cleaned up. So well done if you've done that. So if you're in the chat and you kept it on Moyes for 2 weeks, do let us know, because that's fantastic. Now, what a lot of people are looking at this week, and this is a graphic from Rob T FPL. Great follow, by the way. Lovely graphics every week. And he's brought out this one in terms of the assistant manager projected points for this week, and this does take table bonus into account as well. Everybody you can see on the table that is in orange are table bonus teams. Now, I'll just quickly run through them there. That's Glasner for Crystal Palace, Ruud van Nistelrooy for Leicester, McKenna for Ipswich, we've got Pereira for Wolves, Juric for Southampton, and we've also got Graham Potter at the bottom there for West Ham. Now, the scenario that a lot of people are finding themselves in this week, some people activated it 2 weeks ago and they're on Emery or they're on slot now and they're thinking about making that move. Some people are on their second week of using assistant manager because they might have used triple captain a couple of weeks ago. So they're thinking about making a move as well. Now, my biggest thing here at the moment is I'm looking at this table. I don't see a lot of fixtures that I really, really like, especially for those table bonus managers. Even the ones that I think are home bankers, obviously Liverpool and Man City, who are usually the teams you look at as bankers, playing against each other, and it's Liverpool playing away as well. So you never know what can happen, really. The only one that you're really looking at in this table and you're thinking, yeah, that seems like you're going to be getting some safe points there, is Arteta at home to West Ham. But unfortunately, obviously, there's going to be no table bonus. So you're looking at it like we've been looking at Slot for the last couple of weeks. Now, you look at Slot for the last couple of weeks, he's got 15 points, 13 points, and that's in 2 double game weeks. So it's a really tough one this week, I think, with your assistant manager. Now, what I was going to ask you two first, and there's kind of 2 parts to this question, is number one, who would you be going for as your assistant manager if you were going to make the move or if you were activating this week? And 2 is, would you change this week? So when you're thinking about those managers, think to yourself, would I be moving from a Slot, from an Emery, from a Moyes, and moving to one of these, remembering that those transfers are so precious and that those transfers are probably needed for a lot of managers for 29 as well. So I'm going to go to you first, Hibbo. Looking at these managers, I know, looking at these managers, who would you fancy this week, especially for table bonus, and would you move from somebody to get to them? Tough one, isn't it?
I think it depends on a number of factors. I think it depends, and this is the cop-out answer, I think it depends how many transfers you have. I think it depends what way you plan on playing 23. So is your team in reasonable shape or 29? Is your team in reasonable shape, or are you planning to free hit through? Because I think people that have a stack of transfers have more scope to punt a wee bit in the assistant managership. I think that goes without saying. What I will say is, I don't like Van Nistelrooy as a pick. I don't like McKenna as a pick. I wouldn't back these promoted teams with a chap which feels so powerful. Juric feels the same. Pereira feels the same. I think if I was being completely honest with you, I would stick it in Glasner if I was going to have a go. Because Fulham have been a wee bit flaky recently, and Palace have improved. You know, they didn't play well against Everton, but Matera's flying. As long as he's fit, they've got a chance. And I think they are in a better shape team-wise than they were earlier at the start of the season. So I think if I was punting table bonus, I would go Glasner away to Fulham. But there's different arguments here. Arteta's the missionary position if you're the boring kind of guy that just wants to get the job done. Arteta's the boy. And the other option is, in many cases, it might not really be optimal to change. Because look at Slot as away at Man City. Haaland's potentially out because he didn't play today. So, like a Haalandless Man City, I think Liverpool would fancy their chances at the weekend. And, you know, maybe you've got bigger moves you want to make. You know, maybe you want to get Cunha, maybe you want to get Kluivert, maybe you want to start stacking that team towards 29. So, I think there's pros and cons for it all. What a cop out of it.
Can I just say, there is nothing wrong with missionary. There is nothing wrong with getting the job done. All right? So, for all you people out there, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't listen to Hibbo, all right? Nacho, I would go for Arteta because I'm looking at this table. Yes, there's nothing wrong with missionary. I'm looking at this table
A quick
and
job's
I'm just
a good
thinking, yeah, exactly. Glasner, yeah, obviously you've got the table bonus, which could be quite nice. I think Fulham have been really good this year, and Fulham at home as well. Palace are so up and down, and like you listen to any of their fans, and don't get me wrong, I know listening to fans can be bad sometimes, but they really, they've stalled again this year, and I know that's because of certain injuries and things. But I'm looking at that. I don't fancy that. I don't fancy any of these. What would you be doing, Nacho? Would you be sticking with the manager you're on and saving a free transfer? Because this week does not seem the week, does it?
Yeah, it's really tricky this week, I feel, because for somebody that's been on slot for the last 2 weeks, it feels like we have been kind of playing safe a little bit with this chip. And I don't know if I want to finish on the third week by just going for Arteta. Now, I think that is the safest pick to go for. And I do think it is the most logical because you've got the 1.5 already invested. And unless you need that funds freed up to go elsewhere, which I think is quite a niche position, I think you probably can just do slot to Arteta, be done with it. But I also want to play the chip and have at least one opportunity to chase table bonus. I do feel that in my gut right now because the slot thing hasn't necessarily paid off. Now, on hindsight, if slot won against Everton without that last minute goal, I'd probably be saying to myself, just go safe. But I agree. I think what I'm looking at right now with the table bonuses, I don't love the promoted teams at all. I really think on reflection, I'll just kick myself if I put it on anyone from Leicester, Ipswich or Southampton, and inevitably they just got pumped 4-0. Because that could easily happen against the teams that they're playing up against. So it literally is Glasner or Arteta for me this week. I think it's very clear that way. And all it takes is a draw from Glasner, and it basically does the same as that of Arteta. So I like the upside right now of maybe chasing a table bonus opportunity and going there. That's where I'm leaning to right now.
Oh, go on.
This feels, though, like one of those times where everybody beforehand is saying, oh, it's supposed to be fun. I want to have a bit of fun. And then they get 0 points and go, well, that wasn't fun, was it? And it feels a bit like that. I just look at it and think, I can't imagine Arsenal walking out of that game without getting a result against West Ham at home. I just can't see it. Whereas all the others, I'm like, God knows what's going to happen. Even Glasner, I think out of the other table bonus, I think Glasner's the one, isn't it? Like out of all of those table ones, if you wanted to go for a table bonus game, that is the one that makes the most sense. But I mean, no love at all for McKenna. Ipswich home to Spurs. They've already got one result against them this year. No love at all, either of you?
I couldn't go there myself. I think Ipswich can do it, but I just think with Spurs as well. Like I know they've been so ropey this season, but I still always back them to score a goal. I don't love it myself.
No. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Just as well, just thinking about it a little bit there. Well, obviously, Hibbo, I know you mentioned it just now, but I wanted to get Nacho's take on it. What do you think in terms of using a transfer on your assistant manager compared to using it to build for 29? Do you think it's going to hurt you massively if you don't? Obviously, Hibbo said just then about, if you've got lots of transfers, it's not too bad. But if you just had the one transfer and you're using it on a manager that you're not going to have the week after or potentially 2 weeks after, do you think that's worth a move? Or do you think if you're on like a slot Emery, Moyes, just keep him for one more week?
I think if you're planning to play through 29 with transfers, and transfers are very valuable to you, and you've only got one, I think making that change this week probably is like suboptimal, if I'm being totally honest with you. But that's dependent on your team being kind of strung out for 29. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. Off the cuff, I kind of think Arteta's the really safe play. I've kind of played safe so far. It's kind of worked. It's not a million miles behind Moyes. It's kind of my style. I don't really like any of the table bonus teams, if I'm being completely honest with you. If I was taking a pop, it would probably be Glasner, but
yeah.
No, I think if I was a gun to my head, if you were asking me to make a call now, I would say I would play it in Arteta. And I think the transfer, if you could hit table bonus, the transfer is worth it. But I think if you're playing to hit 10, 11 points, maybe not. Depending on missing out on Cunha, Kluivert, who are maybe long-term picks. If you've got, say, like Pedro, like I have in my team, you might get more from those guys over like a 4 or 5 game week stretch. So,
yeah, nice. Well, we're obviously talking quite a lot about free hit 29, and we're talking about building to 29 for all those people that are going down that route as well. And that's because obviously 29 is the blink big blank game week, and Nacho has put together a bit of a free hit 29 draft for us. Now, what we wanted to do from this is to see what people are building towards. The people that are free hitting, obviously, they're going to have all the latest information because they're going to get their they're going to finish game week 28, and then obviously they're going to be looking at 29 with all the injury news, rotation news, whatever happens. And believe me, there's always stuff that happens. And obviously they're going to have the optimal team for that week. But for those people that aren't using that strategy and they are building for 29, this is roughly what Nacho is saying you are probably going to be trying to build towards before you get to 29. Now, I know when Nacho sent this through to us, I was thinking, wow, actually, this is probably going to be a very, very different team to what people are going to build towards potentially, because God knows how people are going to potentially get to some of these players. But we've got Pickford and Fabianski in goal, Gabriel, Gvardiol, Mikolenko, Aït-Nouri, and then Ola Aina at the back, Kluivert and Mbumo, Foden, Nwaneri, Bruno Fernandes, Haaland, Cunha, and Wood up top. Now, as I've already said, things change quite a lot. Even tonight, Haaland wasn't playing. So does that make a certain Egyptian king a little bit more viable for that game week? And by the way, Egyptian king, I mean Marmoush, not Salah. Nacho, talk us through this team here a little bit, because obviously with these free hit weeks, you're probably looking at stacking quite a few players from certain teams to try and attack certain fixtures, aren't you? And that's exactly what you've done here.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's quite important, obviously, going into game week 26, that we start to understand kind of what direction you want to take your teams. So whether you're going to free hit in game week 29 or you're going to hold that off until game week 34. And that is going to come down to a team specific. So I think if you're sat there right now with triple outfield Liverpool, not including Slot, obviously, double Villa, double Palace, Newcastle assets, then your hand is probably getting forced towards a free hit in 29. And it's worth noting the way the fixtures are going about right now, I don't think that's a bad move at all. I think the free hit game week 29 is actually gaining quite a bit of traction right now in the community. But with this free hit here, as a manager right now who's looking to actually run through game week 29 without the free hit, I just want to kind of understand who are the players that I think are going to be really highly owned and also just a fantastic pick in isolation. And when I just look at the players right now, I think Pickford is going to be highly owned regardless, because a lot of managers went towards him for the double in 25. We got people like Gabriel with the Arsenal coverage. I think there's then, outside of the defence, probably Nottingham Forest. In terms of the midfielders, I think it's quite essential to have a Bournemouth midfielder. Mbuemo is going to be very highly owned. But outside of those two, I actually think that is up for grabs, really, with a lot of managers on who the other midfielders are going to be, because 3 up top is going to be very, very popular in a game week 29 team. Haaland, Cunha, and Wood make up the 3 in this free hit draft, and I think that will be quite template. And I think having at least one of those is going to be very important to cover yourself off for free hit game week 29, or of course, if you're running through. So I just think right now it's really important to understand who are the players that you're missing out on and which ones can you easily bring into your team just to cover yourself off against those free hitters in 29. And for me, take my team, for example, it would be the likes of Mbuemo and Chris Wood for that week.
Yeah, and obviously, I mentioned Haaland's injury there. He was on the bench tonight, so that it would be, quite mad to think that he's not fit enough to be playing in free hit 29, to be playing in game week 29. But Hibbo, the big thing there is people aren't going to be able to own Salah and Haaland. Now, do you think by the time we get to 29, people will be saying now, no, there's no way I do that. But by the time we get to 29, do you think people will be making that move from going Salah to Haaland because they could potentially use their wild card and say game week 30, 31 and bring Salah straight back again?
I think we'll see a lot of it. I think, the only argument against for me is that you lose value accrued and Salah. And then, but it depends what you're going to do long term. I know this sounds crazy, but if there's no double game weeks for Liverpool, post 31, we're going to have a double game week 32, we're going to have a double game week 33, you're maybe going to have free hit around 34. You might see some teams going without Salah in the wild. And I know that sounds crazy now, but I think you could see it. But in terms of shut that off, shut wildcard off, and just think about the here and now and playing up until wildcard, I think the move's got a fair bit of value in the fact that they play Brighton at home in 29, Leicester at home in 30. We spoke about this in recent weeks. He's captainable in both weeks. His ownership would be quite low. But just to kind of touch on the point that you're making about free hit drafts in general, and the difference, I think, between playthrough and the difference between free hitting that week. And like, I think if we're looking at players like, say, Cunha, we're looking at, say, Kluivert, we're looking at Semenyo, we're looking at Nwaneri, I can't even say his name right, Trossard maybe is an option. The Everton boys, like Beto, if you've got Michelangelo, if you've got Pickford, these are boys that could make the core of a decent game week 29 team. And like, some people can have legacy Everton players lying on their squad. So I do think it's possible to play through. And at the same time, if I look at a free hit team that I would make, the only thing I'd really be missing is maybe Forest players who you haven't owned all season. And Chris Wood can just go and jump somewhere because I'm not going to own him for the rest of the year. No, but you know what I mean? I do think you can build the guts of that team that's going to be good for that week anyway. And I think part of that's going to be like a double change, Salah down, striker up the hand. And that's, you're going to then go Salah and that kind of theory for game week 31 as well. But you've got Leicester at home, so you whack armband on them. But as you say, maybe there's a bigger issue with Haaland. And I think from time to time when there is a bigger issue with Haaland, we're not told the truth by Pep. We're not really told the truth by Man City. If we think back to his ankle where he missed about 6 or 7 weeks in the past.
Yeah.
But like, Marmoush really exploded at the weekend past. Again, from so rare, it was absolutely fantastic for entering Frankfurt. He came on the team and everybody kind of thought, he's probably going to be a part player. You know, it doesn't look like it at all. Like, you know, he looks so far ahead. He's playing very centrally. He's 7 million. He's almost playing like a second striker. He's getting beyond Haaland at times because he's got that pace as well. Like, you know, so he could come under thinking. If all of a sudden they say Haaland's out for a month or so, Marmoush is a lock, biggest lock ever.
Yeah, I know. It could be interesting, that one. I mean, Nacho, the other question I wanted to ask you about this one, because this is obviously, we're going to be gaining traction on Game Week 29 as the weeks go on here, because this is the week that people need to really be looking at. But if you were looking at it now and you were still undecided, so there's going to be managers out there thinking, I don't know whether I should do it. I don't know whether I should free hit in 29 or whether I should build for transfers. If you were looking at your team now, how many players would you be saying, if you can't get to this amount of players without taking hits, you should consider free hit? Like, I know that's quite rudimentary, but what advice would you give people in terms of which direction they should be going down?
Yeah, I think it's always the case where if you're sat there with 7 players for blank game week 29, and some of those are going to be just squad fillers like a Van den Berg or something, then I think it's quite clear. Just get the free hit done. I think some people trying to be a little bit clever sometimes, and they think, oh, but I'll just play like 7 or 8 players in this blank game week and I'll keep the free hit to have a really strong finish of the season, when you can just resolve the problem that you have for your team in game week 29. And we also need to remember that you can roll transfers up to 5 times a season. So if you're in a position right now where you can't actually get yourself to 5 free transfers to navigate this game week and your team's in trouble, then I think free hit in 29 will sort your issues out. You can get fantastic players like the ones that you can see on your screen for a 1-week punt, and then allow yourself longer term plans to roll the transfer further forward. So I think I'm going to say 8 or less players, and if they're like duds, I would just get the free hit done. But again, like Hibbo said, there are really good alternatives out there. You could play triple Everton in the form that they're in right now with West Ham at home in that blank, and that is fine for this game week. And someone like my main man in Die up against Chris Wood for 1 week in isolation, I mean, that's not the end of the world, really, is it? So it's important to have some of these key players, but I wouldn't be ripping up your teams to go there if it's going to be at the expense of points hits.
Nacho, don't do it, mate. You know it's not going to happen because Hibbo owns Beto. So, of course, Beto's going to be the one that does really well. We know that's how it works this season.
It will, it will.
Yeah, Midas Hibbo over there. Right, let's have a look. Now, Hibbo almost jumped the gun a little bit, talking about Haaland's injury and Marmoush coming in, because I have got a nice little graphic here for us, because as soon as there was a few different people scoring this week and performing really, really well, I messaged these boys and said, look, I think we need to do a bit of a segment on these players that are kind of coming into the league now that we haven't really spoken about all season. And we kind of need to do a little bit of are these shiny new toys, or are they actually going to be people we can invest in? So I got in touch with Ferrell, who used to do our over and unders last year, who's an absolute magician with graphics, and he did my shiny new toys graphic for me. Now, on this, we've got 6 players. We've got Nkunku, who people will be saying, shiny new toy, Nkunku. Obviously, for Nacho in Game Week 1, he wasn't. He was, actually. But then he became rusty again, and now he's a shiny new toy again because of, obviously, Jackson's injury. So he's on this list. We've also got Marino, who came in and played centre forward for Arsenal, scoring 2 goals at the weekend. Came in, kind of transformed them a little bit, you would say. We've got Marmoush here, with Haaland having a little bit of a knock. Marmoush obviously got a hat-trick at the weekend in 33 minutes, I think it was. Then we've got Nwaneri for Arsenal, who's obviously been playing on the wing. With Saka being out, seems absolutely nailed. He has looked classy as well. He has looked very, very good for a 17-year-old. So he's on here too. We've got Beto, who's also on here. Now, Hibbo might be saying, shiny new toy, I've had him for ages. But obviously Beto's on this list. And also Marcus Rashford, who looked very, very good in his 45 minutes. Not so good tonight. Could have got an assist, but he is there as well. Now, if I just quickly go through the data here. So Nkunku, I've put their XGI per 90 and their XA per 90. Nkunku XG per 90, 0.69 and XA per 90, 0.28. Marino, XG per 90, 0.46, XA per 90, 0.10. Marmoush, 0.42, XG per 90, 0.15, XA per 90. Nwaneri, 0.29 XG per 90 and 0.17 XA per 90. Beto 0.63 and 0.04, and Rashford 0.18 and 0.25, albeit a lot of that was obviously for cameos for United this year. Now, the biggest thing I want to do is I just want to really quickly go through this. I knew the chat would be going, how do you pronounce his name? I really want to quickly go through this and just go through each player, and you're just going to tell me hit or miss, basically. Are they going to be someone we want to own in our teams? Or are they going to be someone you think, nah, flash in the pan, not going to last? So I'm going to go to Hibbo first each... No, do I go to Hibbo first each time? Yeah, I'm going to go to Hibbo first each time, then to Nacho. So Hibbo, first up, Nkunku. You could be as long as short as you want. Nkunku, is he, with their fixtures coming up, now going to be in our teams? What do you think?
I'll say hut.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Southampton and Leicester at home is just too strong. Do you know, I think in terms of fixtures, in 29 he's playable. Arsenal away is not a great fixture. It hasn't been a great hold this season, but I'm just going to say the potential's there for him. They blow up, and I think Ham and Palmer seem to be playing on a kind of 2 at times up top, so looks okay. Nacho? It's a short-term hold. You're not holding them all season.
Yeah. Nacho?
Home run. Is that good?
Stop it.
No, let's be honest here. I'm a Chelsea fan. Nkunku is not up to scratch right now. So it is a miss, or whatever it is, an avoid. It's all of those things.
What about Marino then? Marino could be playing up top for Arsenal now, with obviously Havertz out all season. Hibbo, what do you think? Hit or miss?
Miss. He came off the bench and scored 2.
He did.
So it's, do you fancy him to be like totally nailed on, locked, playing up top? And I think for me, I've got 2 Arsenal players, and if you ask me to add another one, I would add Nwaneri. Can't really say his name, so I'll just blurt it out, a pile of letters there. But he, in that case, I would be a wee bit concerned about their Marino minutes, and I wouldn't get so cock-a-hoop about the 2 goals at the weekend. They say, like, is he now going to be super nailed going forward? Maybe he is, maybe he's not, but I think the young boy on the right wing is, at least until Salah's. I think he's, or Saka's back, I think he's playing like Saka light. He's playing like Saka with pains, and he looks very promising.
I've heard this about you. You're always so premature, Hibbo. Wait till we get there. Nacho, what do you reckon? Marino, hit or miss?
Mate, this is like Darwin Núñez levels of miss. This is a miss. 6 million for Marino. You can get all the Bournemouth mids at the same price. He's just a big tree that stands up top, and he's coming up against Milenkovic and all in Nottingham Forest, who's like 6'10". He's up against Harry Maguire, the slabhead, in 28. This guy, no, miss.
Oh, I like it. What about Marmoush then? Hat trick in 33 minutes. What do you reckon, Hibbo?
I think it could potentially be a hut. Do you know, he's looked good in the games that he's played, and I think I think you have to look at his Bundesliga form, and people will talk about that and say, does that translate? And is he going to take time to adapt the league? From what I see already, he's taking time to adapt. He's throwing him on. Like, he's not really playing Grealish anymore. Marmoush seems to be the player for now and seems to be the player for the future. And I think in the Bundesliga, he scored like 20 goals, 13 assists in 33 games. They're big numbers. And how he was playing there, I think he could do very well in this lineup. Minutes are obviously the concern, but I'm going to say hat.
Ooh, Nacho, we're seeing a pattern here, by the way. Hibbo's hitting everything, and you're going miss every time. What do you reckon?
I said must Mourinho.
Yeah. Hit. I'm going to say hit. I think he's good. He hasn't got the Bundesliga tax like a certain Werner and all. This guy's good. I don't see much competition either. I think that left-hand side's been poor for a long time. They've been putting Doku out there and all. I think they got someone now out of the Champions League. I think he is going to get consistent minutes on that flank. And if Haaland's out, of course, possibly playing as a number 9 as well, I really like it. Really like it. The one thing I do find interesting is, are people going to go for him as opposed to Erling Haaland? So I like now that we have an alternative out there. It could be some big swings.
Yeah. What about Waniri then? So 0.29 XG per 90. Not bad for a 17-year-old. What do you reckon, Hibbo? 4.5? I think it might be 4.6 million now.
No, he's still 4.5. And, you know, we look at Leicester. We look at Leicester at the weekend, and he scored, obviously. He got an assist, actually, and he scored against Man City. So there's a wee bit of form there. Again, you could maybe get a wee bit too excited about the minutes here as well, because he had the 90 against Leicester, but before that it was a wee bit patchy. But there's been injuries in the team. I think it's well covered at this point. Havertz is now injured. They're looking very threadbare. Jesus is injured. So I think we can expect that he's going to get a fairly reasonable amount of minutes, at least until Saka's back. So, hat.
Yeah, it's interesting with Waniri, by the way. He's very, very high on certain projection sites. What do you reckon, Nacho?
Very high.
Yeah, I think he is a hit, but not as a team structure of a 3-5-2. I would have him in if you are a bit more leaning towards like the forwards. I just think Forest away in 27 not ideal. Who knows what happens after game week 29 when they get the likes of Saka and possibly Martinelli back as well. So I think he's fantastic, by the way. Like, when you watch him, he's actually a baller. But I wouldn't be wanting him and looking at him and be like, I have to play every single week, basically.
Yeah. I'm going to come to you first for this one, Hibbo, obviously. Beto's up next. 0.63 XG per 90 is not bad at all. Do you think this is just a player who just seems to be in good form with a new manager coming in and it's going to last to the end of the season? He reminds me an awful lot of Mateta last year when he did this. He just hit that form and it just carried on all year. Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think this is just a couple nice fixtures, he'll tail off now?
Tail off? Have some respect. This is Beto. This is Beto. This is Beto we're talking about here. Like, this is 4 goals in 3 games. And like, when I see Beto playing now,
respect.
I see R9. I see the original, really Ronaldo. And I do think
Nacho, do you remember when he was talking about Pedro like this?
Oh God, don't.
He's so fickle, isn't he? Who's he going to be next week?
I'm not fickle. And if you look at the fixtures, it's going to
be Tommy Doyle next week when he scores for Wolves.
Who do they play this week? At home to the worst team in the league, Man United. United are terrible at the minute, so I fancy Beto this week. I think going forward, the fixtures are good. And then I think as long as DCL stays out, he starts as a 9. He's been better than DCL. He's been Ronaldo.
Oh, God. Glad I went to you. Nacho, Better.
I think he's a hit. 4.9 million. I think he's a hit. Yeah. I can't ignore it. I think it's great. Fixtures are good.
I can't get
Betaldinho, I love it.
I can't get over the fact that Hibbo still only bought Beto because he couldn't afford Ndai, and the swing is just God. No. You had your argument the other week. No, we're moving on to Rashford. Rashford, hit or miss? Hibbo, what do you think?
Miss. He's not a buy now that the double's gone. And he probably wasn't a buy for the double because we weren't really sure if he was going to start. He was very promising in the first game against Ipswich. He came off a bench, and I think he ran the game for Villa because I watched the game here in the house. As you said, not so much tonight, but going forward, 3 fixtures in a blank. He's not a buy for me. I think anybody that you need to be buying now, they need to be able to play through the blank if that's your strategy. If you're planning not the free hit, I think it's crazy to buy somebody now that blanks in 29. There was an argument when the double was there, but I think now that the double's gone, no.
Yeah. Nacho?
Yeah, miss, and literally not a buy for the rest of the season. Looking at the fixtures right now, I think that's just a void for the season, sadly.
Yeah, nice. Right, let's move on to some bus teams now then. So this is my bus team moving into the game week. I've got Pickford in goal. I've got Gabriel, Trent and Howson at the back there with Cliver, Mbumo, Salah, Palmer and Rodgers. Salah is currently my captain. And then I've got Isak and Raul Jimenez up top. I've currently got Hall on the bench, who's obviously got Nottingham Forest at home. And I've also got Lewis on the bench there as well. There is a little bit. I've got, by the way, Slot as my assistant manager, who's obviously got Man City away as well. Now, my current thoughts are that I'm going to be moving Rodgers out for someone like Dango because I quite like Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth are absolutely fine. Obviously, I feel like against that Wolves. The Wolves' defence actually hasn't been that bad recently, not compared to maybe at the beginning of the season. But I am looking and thinking I quite like this Bournemouth team. I've obviously got Ndai there, so whoever I bring in for Rodgers is probably going to need to play most weeks. And I feel like Dango's still going to be playing up top every week until I go to wildcard in like 30-31, because that's when Evan Nielsen might come back around that time. So I feel like Dango's a good shout up till there. The other thing I'm thinking at the moment is, do I do that move or do I keep Rodgers against Chelsea and move Slot to somebody like Arteta? They're my two things at the moment. I've been toying with getting Nwaneri in, but I just think for 4.5 million and with Ndai being my third striker, I need him to play every week, and I don't think I'd be wanting to play him every week. Whereas a Bournemouth lad with their fixtures, I feel like I would. So it's whether I move Slot or whether I do Rodgers to someone. Now Rodgers, obviously, we've spoken about already tonight. He could do well against Chelsea. I've grown quite frustrated with Rodgers in the fact that he seems to do it in Europe, but doesn't seem to do it in the Premier League at the moment, and he gets booked an awful lot as well. So I'm not enamoured with Rodgers at the moment, and I feel like a change might be good. So those are my two transfers I'm thinking of. The other thing, obviously, and I know a lot of people are talking about this, is Trent away to City. Is that a benching? I don't think it is. We've seen tonight what he can do. I don't think he is a benching. So obviously don't think about that, but have you got any thoughts on that whole Rodgers out or Slot out, either of you?
Can't afford it. I like it.
Which
one?
You know,
I think, Rodgers out, I think, is a good move. I think that you're gaining the player for 29 as well, and I think, depending on who you're going to buy, I'm assuming you're maybe going to buy, are you going Django as opposed to Semenyo?
Yeah, Dango, I think. Yeah, Utara. I think Utara playing up top, I'd like it. With those fixtures they've got, I feel like they're going to score a few.
Could be nice.
I owned Semenyo before, didn't I? But
I like that. Sorry, go ahead, Nacho.
Yeah, I think the Rodgers move resolves the team better than that to Slot out. If there was a priority move, and City just got pumped by Real Madrid as well, didn't they? So yeah, I think Slot's keeping as opposed to selling Rodgers as the route I'll go for.
Yeah, nice bit of confirmation bias there. Lovely. Right, Hibbo, talk us through your team, my man.
Yeah, so 2 free transfers for me this week, and I've got like 0.2 million in the bank. And it's the last week as assistant manager. So just run through the team for the podcast. People have got Pickford Nets against United. So obviously that's a banker clean sheet. I've got Gabriel and Timber double defence versus West Ham. Ben White was on the bench in the last game. So there's maybe that bit of concern by the time 29 comes around. For me, is Timber still going to be in place? Timber's been good. Do they drop him? Do they keep him on? Does Ben White camo? Do they both play together? It feels like an unknown. Trent away to Man City. For the record, I think Timber plays this week. Salah's team captain at the minute, but it feels a wee bit pussy, I will like to say it. Palmer, Vice, Bruno, Rodgers and Semenyo on the midfield. And up top, I've got R9 and Watkins. So on the bench, I've got João Pedro. It feels absolute sacrilege that I bench him away to Southampton, because this feels like the game you keep him for. This feels like the game where he gets a big score. It seems for all the world like he's been dropped. So looking at this team at the minute, what do I do? I could do Slot out for an assistant manager, or I could plan towards 29. Same theory as you boys. City get pumped tonight. Real Madrid are obviously a good team. What if Haaland's out at the weekend? I think Liverpool have a reasonable chance. And looking at this team, I would think Kluivert would be nice. Cunha would be nice. And really hone in on that 5-game week block where you view the wildcard in 31 and try to be as strong as possible in 29 and play through the transfers. As somebody saying in the chat, Paul Morgan, Bruno plays in 29. So for me, he's got Leicester in 29, and I'm keen on for a penny and for a pound at the minute with Bruno, and I'm just going to stick no matter how bad United have been. I watched the game at the weekend. Who he's playing? Spurs? Spurs, wasn't it?
Who's that? Sorry, United?
United?
Yeah, we lost Spurs 1-0.
It was absolutely dreadful. It was the worst game I've ever seen in my life. And Madison. Madison doing the shush and all because he scored against United. Catch a grip of yourself. You know, he got criticised by Roy Keane because he was basically kind of called like not a top player, middle of the road. Nobody in the team like looks at Madison and says, "Oh, we've got him back today." Embarrassing that he's shushing after scoring against. It was like a tap-in from 2 yards. Anyway, that's getting off the point. What do you think of my team? Could I do anything different or?
Not massively. It depends whether you want to go real wholesale, but I think the fact you've obviously got Rodgers and Watkins both playing at home to Chelsea, but they're the boys that you're going to be looking to get rid of soon if you're looking at 29, obviously. But Pedro on the bench does seem funny now. But like you said, I think he has lost his place. I think Ruter's playing ahead of him, isn't he? So I don't really see... And Welbeck's playing too well at the moment as well, so there's not really a place for him in that team.
Monte played very well in the game week past, and I expect him to start again because I think Herziller's on the rack a wee bit, and like when managers are under pressure and they get the one, I think logic is that right, I'm going to stick with us because these boys won last time out, so I don't think he plays. Rodgers out, the Kluivert's a move. Slot there, Arteta's potentially a move for me. It's watch the space. I haven't really decided at the minute. I'm just kind of leaving everything the last minute because at this time of the season, I don't go early on transfers and I just wait until the deadline before I make a decision because it can be so much wasted energy until you get the deadline and somebody's injured and you've got a very obvious move. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah. And if we look at Nacho's best team, how many Everton players are you buying this week, Nacho?
Oh, mate, honestly, if there wasn't a maximum of 3, I'd have the whole team and Moyes manager, clearly. Yes, so let's read out the team in a minute, and I need to ask a few questions for you boys. So, Pickford, home against Man United, perfectly fine. Back 3 of Trent. Those who don't know, it sounds like Conor Bradley went off injured, so I should lock in Trent for minutes for the foreseeable if it's a bad injury. Hopefully it's not a bad injury. So Trent, Gabriel, and currently got Mikalenko starting as opposed to Munoz away against Fulham. I'm going all in on Everton right now. Double Bournemouth for Semenyo, Kluivert, Palmer, Salah and Eze, and then Vissa and Isak up top. Bench, obviously, Ndai, Vandenberg and Munoz. So I've got 1.5 million and 2 free transfers available. And I just think Eze to Mbeumo is just the most obvious transfer I could ever make. I just think Eze doesn't help me for blank game week 29. Mbeumo does. Mbeumo's got Leicester away. I just think I get it done. So Eze into Mbeumo, I think, is locked in for me. I don't really see any other moves I'm considering. And then slot out, if I'm tempted, to either Arteta, if I want to go missionary, or if I want to have a bit of a, crazy night, maybe down to Glasgow or somebody.
I so wanted you to say a position then. I thought that's what you were going to do.
I couldn't. I just thought to myself, it might be, something.
I was wondering where you were going to go. If I want to go with a bit of crazy, I was like, oh hey, I think that move makes a lot of sense. I hate the fact that your double Everton defence actually looks really, really good against United, who just can't score. So Eze to Mbeumo makes a lot of sense to me, mate.
Yeah, I think so. And it just helps me out for blank game with 29 as well. So yeah, I think we're okay there.
Nice.
I absolutely love that team this week.
It looks good, doesn't it?
I think the double Brentford, I think the double Bournemouth, I think Isak, even the double Everton. There's an argument that you could maybe play Munoz, but I wouldn't be too strong with the opinion as well because these look all right as well. But no, good team.
Right. The community team, they did have 71 points. They ended up on 107 points this week.
Me.
They did very, very well. They had Flecken in goal with 10. Trent got them 6 before, obviously, he played tonight. Munoz with 1. Gabriel with 6. Palmer with 2. Salah obviously got them, 40 in the end, wasn't it? Semenya with 4. Clivert with 5. Isak with 2. Wood with 9. Wissa with 2. You know when you go up against somebody and you say your works league and they just keep getting lucky and you don't realise how they're doing it. I don't know how that... Flecken with 10. I mean, I had Flecken for about 19 weeks and he didn't get 10 points collectively in those 19 weeks, I don't think. You just can't go up against them, I don't think. FPL Crusader, woo, com team. Fair play to you, boys. I mean, guys and girls, I should say. 107 points this week. Let us know in the chat where you're up to, by the way, because you're comfortably beating all of us. And Hibbo and Nacho, we might as well start saying your goodbyes now because they got rid of 2 presenters last year, and it's you 2 on the chopping block this year. I'll stay, just because I'm the only one that can work the streaming service. Right, let's have a look then at a bit of a Q&A. Well done, com team. You're bound to have a couple bad weeks soon. Let us know in the chat if you've got any questions for us. We've got a bit of a Q&A time now. We've only got a couple of minutes because we ran a little bit over. But we will, I think there's 73k, the com team. Let us know in the chat if you've got any questions for us. And then we'll see you off, I would have thought. FPL Rank Chaser Andy, the community team, actually ended up with 107 points this week. Def not missionary this season. No, fair play. Stephen Randall, yes, com team. Paul Morgan, Southampton this week, lads. Andy taught me out of Fulham last week. I did. Oh, you must be kit it out. He's chatting to me a little bit at the moment. So he's going for Southampton this week. So he's going for that for his assistant manager.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he really wanted to do Fulham last week. He was talking about it for quite a while, actually. And he was saying that we would get a result against Fulham, and they obviously did. FPL Crusader says 81 likes is criminally low. Yeah, we've got almost 600 people in the chat, so get liking. Be good to have over 100. Mohit says, is Gakpo a hold with some home games approaching? What do you think, Hibbo?
No.
Easy swap to Cunha?
I would get rid of him for somebody like Cunha, 100%.
Yeah.
Agree.
Not Beto. Interesting. Attaboy says, is your... Respect. 1 for me, 2 for them. Is your confidence in Arsenal and Liverpool defence solely on TAA and Gabriel, or do you back up players as Timber and VVD as well? What do you reckon, Nacho? Is it just Trent and Gabriel, or would you be looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I don't really think I've seen enough right now for Liverpool to justify getting anyone else from them at all. Arsenal, you could go there. I would rather go defence than the attacking options right now, but I think that's plenty. Trent, Gabriel, I think that's fine.
Yeah. Rat Dog says, do I sell Emery or Rodgers? Which is more of a priority this week, Hibbo?
Who do Villa play? Chelsea at home?
Yeah.
Chelsea at home.
It's not table bonus.
No.
I'm going to say sell Rodgers. I think there's more chance of Rodgers, or I think there's more chance of Emery having 10 points maybe than Rodgers.
Yeah.
That's a wee bit shit like.
This happened last time with Rodgers and he got a goal and assist against City, didn't he? Brian says, what would Nacho do if he was naming a position? Go on then, Nacho. Tell us your position. It's past the watershed real quick.
Wait, what is it? That's Hibbo's sort of topic. That's Hibbo's topic.
Hibbo doesn't have a clue. He hasn't had sex since 1985.
See if Nacho starts naming positions.
He can't, can he?
He's just going to say, how does he know all those?
I can't do it, boys.
Adam Croston says, do I sell Slot for Glasner? What do you reckon, Nacho?
Do you sell... Sorry, I'm bloody bamboozled here.
Do you sell
Slot for Glasner this week? Only if you've got transfers available, like 2 or more. Otherwise, I would just stick with Slot, I think.
Yeah. Sadner says, who is the best assistant manager for the next 2 game weeks?
Oh, for the next 2 game weeks?
Yeah, so they want to make a transfer potentially. Yeah.
We haven't really looked at the table bonus for like the week after.
And it can change, obviously.
And it can obviously change. United against Ipswich. Are you bottom of the table? So you might have table bonus.
Not yet.
It's hard for me to answer without really knowing who's table bonus here, if you know what I mean.
Wolves at home against Fulham. I like that.
That pick could be all right, actually. Wolves at home to Fulham.
I like that.
Brentford at home to Everton, maybe, because they've got Leicester this week.
You won't get a lot of table bonus, but I do think Iraola is quite good as well, because they've got nice fixtures for next two. Yeah.
Jack has asked a load of times here about is Captain Wassa a good option, and I would say, look, it just depends on risk appetite. I think captaincy's kind of super tight this week, but if he really likes a fixture, and I think it's at the stage of the season that if you're kind of struggling a wee bit for a rank, you maybe throw a few moves on. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could either make or break your season. You could really turn it around, get chunk 100k rise, you could get absolutely slaughtered. But you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, you just got to throw a few new moves about. So Nacho, FPL Zeitgoal, recommends the duckbill platypus for you, mate. So look it up when you get home. Right, thank you so much, chat, for your questions. We appreciate all of them. And thank you so much for all of you for listening tonight as well. We do appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for all the people that are watching now. Thank you so much for all the people that are watching on YouTube after the fact. And also thank you so much for everybody listening on the pod as well. Nacho, you've had an interesting night. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the conversation to go that direction, but no, it's been a really good one. It's been good. Hopefully it's been informative to a lot of people out there, because it has been a lot of information to process, but I think it's necessary as well. So yeah, no, thanks as always to you both and everyone listening.
Nice. And Hibbo, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
I always enjoy myself, Andy. Every time I come on stream with you two boys, you're like two of my best friends, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel that way about you.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, notice neither of us said we feel the same way. We just said,
I know. I'm kind of heartbroken.
Oh, bless you. Anyway,
I don't know your real name. No, joking.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. We will see you again next week. And remember, we are on Monday next week, because there are midweek games starting Tuesday. So we're going to be with you on Monday. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.